Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
Total protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal.
Protonic reversal with your host, Conan Neutron. Broadcasting from a secret underground lair in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
A gigantic middle finger to everything that is rotten about music, rock and roll, and corporate power.
The thing is, though, if you don't laugh, you're going to go on a killing spree with sharpened nails.
Confidence of a hero or a fool. I wasn't exactly certain which.
Could not be more professional.
It's only one I choose to devote my life to. That's okay.
It means something. It means something.
And take that away.
You know, that's my take on it. What's yours?
Protonic reversal.
That's like a science thing, right?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. It is a science thing. It is a science place. It is a scientific fact that we are all up in your face. It is time for the one, the only Protonic reversal. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. Welcome to it. Welcome to the Terror Dome. So I'd like to say that right now, for the audio listeners, which is going to be most of you, that you are missing out on quite the visual treat. So this might be the first time I actually mentioned that you want to look at the YouTube version of this whenever I deign for that to go up, because my guest, the incredible Sam Paulsen, has an incredible outfit, is apparently manning the Starship Enterprise, which is lovely. Yes. Sam Paulsen, this is so great to have you. Ivana Nova of Man or Astro-Man, Sam Shark, Queen Samantha for Mean Queen, a la Tony Danza.
I'm glad you didn't say Mean Sam.
Mean Sam, yeah. So I think it's something where there's so many awesome things that you have done that people do the thing where they adopt the punk rock name, right? Like the punk rock name is the name of your band, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of harder when you've been in a bunch of cool bands. It's a real problem. It's a real problem.
I have too many names. I have too many identities. It's hard. Actually, when you asked me that, like, what do you want to go by? I had to think about it for way too long, probably, because I didn't know which one was the most me. So I went with my real name.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with using your real name. There's nothing wrong with nom de rocks either. Nom de rocks, as they are known in the world. Okay, there we go. That was fiction to volume level there. Okay, and so I knew We versus the Shark from like way back in the day, like when that band was around, kind of for the first time. But like only by name. I didn't actually, I think you guys were on my list of like, hey, if we ever get down there, we should contact, X, Y, and Z band, like kind of situation. I want to start with You versus the Shark because you guys reconvened. The whole band reconvened.
We did secretly, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild story, and I wonder if you might tell us a little more about that.
Yeah. So We versus the Shark is the reason I moved to Athens when I was 18 or 19, I can't remember. We were a band for almost 10 years and broke up and did our own thing. And then the past couple of years, we are also really good friends and started talking again. And really it was Luke who kept pushing to make this new album. Luke and I had still lived in Athens at the time. This started a couple of years ago. This project actually probably took 2 full years to record this album, the newest one, which was we took a break for almost as long as we were a band. And then we came back to this band we started this band when we were children and then took a break and then came back to it when we were adults. And then we wrote what I think is our best record that we wrote and put it out last summer. But it was Luke who kind of kept pushing, being like, hey, we have like all these half-finished songs or, these songs we always wanted to finish. And what are you guys doing? Like, can we just work on them and record them just for us, just for fun? And we all decided, sure. We made time for it. And Scott was living, where was he living?
He was living the furthest away.
He was in San Francisco and then Amsterdam. So it was like, we had to get him in the studio to record drums before he moved to Amsterdam. And so we got drum tracks down, and then Jeff was living in New York, and so he flew down and got his bass stuff on, and Luke and I went in on our days off and kind of like wrote. It's definitely a studio album. We had like the basic tracks done for all the songs, and kind of did that long distance for a while. And then actually some of the stuff, especially my stuff, they didn't even hear until it was recorded. Like
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, and a few of the songs too, they wrote after I left the band, and they kept playing for about a year, and they really wanted me on the song, so I got to go in and kind of like, they didn't tell me to do anything. They were just like, we need you on this, go do something with it.
Do your Sam thing.
Yeah, I did, and luckily they liked it. It worked out. But yeah, it was kind of weird to go in and record, and you know, they weren't even there necessarily when I was putting down my stuff, so it was kind of nerve-wracking to be like, I'm going to record this stuff, and then you're going to hear it. It's going to be on the album, and I hope you like it.
Yeah, I was going to say, hope you like it.
Hope you like it. Here's the album. Okay. But yeah, it was actually a really fun experience. It was weird to piece together an album like that. I don't think we'd ever really done that before, and I had experienced that. We had recorded all of our previous albums live in the studio, or, you know, as bands do, where everybody's there, and, you know, you record in a sequence, but this was kind of just pieced together, and we pieced it together really well, I think. And yeah, we had a small reunion tour booked, and kind of kept it all secret until the last minute, and then COVID hit.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
and here we are.
Yeah, and that's the story of Jesus, but really it's the story of rock and roll.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a shame because I mean, first of all, it is a hell of a record. Like it's a great record. Like I really liked it. It showed up on my top 20 of the year list. I'm not sure if you're aware, Sam.
I saw. Thank you.
And I really was, you know, I was devastated for you that not only did you take all this effort and time to reconvene to get everybody back together, but like you had a whole tour booked, and it's just like, oh, never mind. It
was pretty heartbreaking to make that call to just not do it. And then we had to make the decision to release the album or sit on it for another year, because we're like, oh, maybe this will pass. And then summer was coming around, and we're like, this is life now. Like, this is how it is. We're not going to tour for a while, and by the time we tour, this album's going to be old, you know, and our people are still going to care. They cared when it was like a surprise, and we were like, hey, guess what? Here's an album. And people were like, hey, yeah, I want to come see you play songs on this album. And now, I mean, it's probably going to be 2 years from the start of the pandemic where live music starts to come back. And we were just like, I don't want to sit on this album for that long. Let's just release it and hope people want to buy it and listen to it. And I don't know that we'll play it live ever. It was a good idea, but it was going to be a lot of work, because we hadn't played a lot of the old songs, and we had never played the new songs live. It was a studio album. So it was going to be a lot of work to figure out how to play it live and make it sound the way we wanted to. We were willing to do that, but then the universe did not want us to. So so instead, I mean, we put out what I think is a really good record, and I'm really proud of it, and I'm really impressed at how it came together. It seemed like at first it was just going to be a thing for us and just our close friends, and being like, oh, if you knew this band, like, you might like these songs or might remember some of them. And but then we finished it, and we were like, wait, I really want people to hear this. I want everybody to hear it. And, I want it to be a thing. So, yeah, it turned out for the best, you know.
So, I mean, there's a lot of things I want to talk to you about that, like not the least of which is, the level of effort for that, you know, is huge. And it's obviously so disappointing. But, I mean, did it, with that much of a time span between when the band was originally active to now, did it snap back in place? Does it feel like, you know, playing in a cover band? Like what, like, I mean, how was that experience?
It felt like we never stopped. That was the cool thing. We had actually talked about it too, about how it would feel to all be in a space together again and to create together. And we kind of just said, we're all really good friends. Like I think this will be a good thing. And we know how to be honest with each other now. And
right.
You know, we're all better musicians. We're all better at everything that we were a decade ago. Why not just finish these songs, and it'll be like a fun little reminiscent thing. And it was like we never stopped. It was a really, really cool, awesome feeling to like be in the studio and writing these songs and getting to play guitar again in this situation with these musicians and have it just feel so
natural.
good, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so natural, and that's
vital.
hard to find. Yeah, it's hard to find, you know, like I've played with a lot of people, and yeah, these three musicians were like vital to who I am today as a musician, you know, like really shaped me. I was in bands before then, and you know, I started playing guitar when I was 13 and played in bands when I was 14, 15, and but yeah, they were like this crucial point in my musicianship that like really made me a better person and musician, and yeah, getting back together and having it be so natural and so like just feel like normal. Like it was really awesome. I think it was surprising to all of us. We thought maybe it would be awkward or like, hey, yeah, like we'll try writing some stuff, but we've all changed, and then we all like went back to our things. I remember Jeff, who's the bass player, and we all sing, but he's like, yeah, I'm not going to scream on this album at all. That was like me in my early 20s, and I was, you know, angry and screamy. Yeah. And then the first thing he tracked was like a screamy, like loud. He's like, oh no, it just fit. It worked, you know. We went right back to where we were, and it felt good. So.
Well, and you went right back to the way you were, but also you have the lived experience of being an adult now, and you know, having been a musician and like learned the things that you learned for those experiences and stuff. So I mean, and it's a musically like interesting and adventurous record, and it still strikes me that, well, there's almost like an entire subgenre of music I like that's like mid 2000s indie rock. When I say indie rock, like I mean stuff like Savvy Fav and like Enon and stuff like that, where it's like oh no, like
we played with them. We were in the time of all those bands and did the circuit with all of them. Yeah.
And it just occurs to me that it's so weird that, I don't know, it's mumble rap now. I don't know what it is, but it's like all that, you know, most of that music is like held up, and it's just kind of interesting to think how far away from that world like so much of the music world has gotten. And because there are a lot of interesting, almost like proggy parts and things along those lines, but there's big hooks and you know, it's very adventurous, and it just occurs to me that it's like wow, if they had, not that would have been possible, but like if they had put that out in their original run, like they probably would have been like, you know, really well known. And now it's just like weird, like, hey guys, we did a thing. Oh, COVID, never mind. Peace, y'all.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And and I mean, that's a heartbreaker, and that's a bummer. But it is a great record. I think that like the cool thing about throwing it on the Protonic list is a bunch of people like, hey, this is really good. Thanks for recommending it, and that's awesome. But it's such a different world now, and
yeah.
I would have loved to see We versus the Shark in 2020. I would like to have seen anyone in 2020, frankly, but I would have loved to see what that looked like. And I mean, do you think that's just kind of not a thing that's ever going to happen now, or do you? I mean, it's the least of our concerns, I know, but I
think that we're still so far away from like our current project doing anything, you know, that it's hard to project whether or not this project that was going to be already so much work for all of us to happen like 2 years after the fact. Like I don't know. I don't want to say it's impossible, but I mean, I think we'd all still want to do it. It's just a matter of, will we be able to, and will we be able to play shows that, and, you know, tour on a record that came out probably 2 years after the fact. And I don't know. I just don't know. And now I moved across the country. Well, actually, Scott and I are both on the West Coast now. So we're split evenly on the coast. So
right down the middle. Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like it's So yeah, I don't know. I would be interested to. I mean, I was interested to see We versus the Shark in 2020. You know, like
sure,
I wanted to be a part of it. I was excited about it. I knew it was going to be a lot of work to bring these new songs to the stage and to remember how to play the old songs that I wrote when I was 20 years old. You know?
We were like, what was I thinking there? We
also, even just picking the songs like that we wanted to play, like picking the old songs. We had like a long list, and some, you know, like trying to figure out what old songs we put in. Like even that was a challenge. So, I don't know where I was going with that. Where did we start?
Well, it's just reconvening anything is always kind of weird because you have the history, but you have the familiarity too, so you get both sides of it. And it just occurred to me that Goodbye Guitar, which of course is the name of the record, I guess we can go ahead and mention that, since I don't think I have yet. It takes the best, what you want to hope for something like that is you get the best parts of what made something cool, but then also kind of bring something new to it. I think you guys totally did that. But it is kind of a weird COVID times thing of like, is everything just stay on pause? Do we just pick back up where we left off?
Yeah.
What do you do? Like when you record a record, when you release a record in the era of COVID, like what does that mean? Does it just go into the memory hole immediately? Like what?
And we don't know. Nobody knows. We're in this weird wormhole right now of like, what's going to happen when venues can reopen? Like everybody's going to want to play. So then it's could we even book a show, a band that hasn't played in 15 years? Like, could we even book any shows?
Actually, there's a White Stripes reunion. U2's playing.
They're playing we're way down on the list.
Yeah, exactly.
And then is anybody gonna want to see us? Like, even when we were making this album, we're like, who's gonna want to listen to this? Like, I want to hear these songs recorded, but who's gonna want to listen to it? And then when we started sharing with our friends a little bit, they were like, oh, this is I want to listen to this. And then we're like, who wants to see this? So even the tour that we booked then last summer was booked very specifically in places that we knew we had people who wanted to come see us. And I don't know if that was for us or for them. I don't know if we booked in cities because we were like, oh, I know that these people will come out and I won't feel like shit if nobody else comes out to the show.
Right.
Or it could be really awesome and be like a really good tour that a lot of people want to come see. But it was just like, even at that point, it was so like unknown territory. And now we're even further into the wormhole of unknown territory that it's so hard to even say what we're going to do, what's going to happen. So, yeah.
Certainly. And it's one of the things that's just, it's timing too, and then I think of all the, and I've had a lot of bands on that just, had, again, also had like big plans and we're doing a bunch of things. And then it's like, oh, and never mind.
And nope, everything's canceled.
And I just think about like, I've talked about this recently about just, because we had to cancel a bunch of dates, and then it was like, oh, don't worry, we'll just make them up in the summer. Oh, cool, we're playing with Shiner. That's gonna be great. And it was like, oh, I radically overestimated people's ability to deal with this crisis.
Oh yeah. It has not gone very well, has it?
Well, tell me about moving to Bellingham, because I'm on record as saying that I think Bellingham is one of the great American cities that is kind of unknown. But it's
I've already tried to get you to move. I've only lived here a month, and I've already tried to get you to move here so we can start a band. Because you introduced me to like 5 other awesome people and musicians, and we're all like, yeah, just move here. Like, what are you doing?
It's the best. I love Bellingham. It's a wonderful place.
Really awesome. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm gonna sound crazy when I say this, but like I lived in Athens for 18 years, and pandemic hit, and then I sold my house and quit my job and moved across the country. Like that sounds normal, right? That's what normal people are doing right now.
Some normal quarantine business.
It sounds like a very rash pandemic decision, but it wasn't. I mean, I've been thinking about Athens for a long time and leaving, and I've always wanted to live in this area of the country. Pacific Northwest has always called to me. Beautiful. And it's beautiful, and the scenery and the weather and everything. And I've played up the West Coast many times. And I also think when I was little, so I was born in Texas and then grew up in Colorado, but my parents were actually on the way to Seattle. We were supposed to move to Seattle when I was little, and they broke down in Colorado. And they broke down, and my dad was a firefighter, and the person who stopped to help us was the fire chief in that town. Wow. And he they became real good friends, and so we ended up just moving to Colorado. So there's always I feel like my dad tells that story all the time, and so I think it's like engraved in my brain somewhere that like I was supposed to be in Sleater-Kinney and I was supposed to be out here. Totally. Like if I had moved, I think I'm a little younger than them, maybe very slightly, but like I feel like I would have been a whole different musician if I had like grown up here and
come up in the Pacific Northwest. Sure.
There's always been this little part of my heart that's like, go there, like go be there, and
that's the place,
and figure it out, So pandemic just happened to be like a good time for some reason. Like, I mean, well, I can tell you the reasons. I sold my house like in a day. I mean, that was ridiculous. It's a seller's market. It's crazy.
Because it seems like that area is kind of going that way, right? Like it's becoming way more like more people going out than coming in of creative types because it's becoming less easy to live, but then also people that are coming in have a little bit of money.
Yeah. And so it was really easy to sell my house, and I'm a nurse for my money for my adult job. The other personality that I have is Nurse Sam. So I have all these names, and then I have Nurse Sam to have a retirement and health insurance and all that shit that you need to live. So it's really easy to go anywhere and be a nurse. So that wasn't an issue. And I don't know. Bellingham, we had played here a few times, and actually Manor Astro-Man has ties to Bellingham as well. Estrus Records is from Bellingham, and a good friend of the band lives here. And so we've played here in between, Seattle and Vancouver, and been here a few times. And I still remember the first time I came here and we were walking around town, and I was just like, I want to be here. I want to live here. Like, I've never lived by water. I miss the mountains, and it just has everything that I wanted. And so when I was entertaining the idea of moving over the summer, Athens got to be a real bummer in the pandemic. Like, it was Athens has always been this nice little bubble, and I'm trying not to talk shit about Athens because there are so many wonderful people there, and it's not any of those people that have destroyed anything of it for me. But the little bubble of Athens, much like the bubble of Austin in Texas, it used to be this really fun, creative place full of music, full of art, and I feel like it's really changed in the past few years, and the pandemic really highlighted that because a lot of local businesses closed and nobody cared about it. My favorite venue, Caledonia Lounge, closed, and a lot of people cared about it, but it was like we couldn't do anything to save it. Like, it was awful, and that place has been around for a long time. And
that was to me, that's on the same level as in San Francisco, and I moved away from the Bay Area, but when the Hemlock Tavern closed, it was like,
it's like where
it's just like
where
such
do we
a
play
hit
now?
Yeah, exactly. Like, where do bands where are the bands that play the Hemlock go? Oh, nowhere? To hell, apparently. They go to hell to play. I don't know.
Apparently. But yeah, it just felt like all the things that I loved most about the town were just kind of floating away. And so it felt like a good time to think about moving away. And I moved a lot when I was a kid, and then I moved to Athens, and I've been there for 18 years. So I kind of felt like it was just the right time. So my partner and I came out in November for a 95s on the plane, and we rented a camper van and like camped up the coast. And he's lived in Portland, and I really wanted to show him Bellingham, but we kind of just decided we wanted to be on the West Coast, and we took a little camping trip, and I showed him Bellingham, and like first day he was like, yeah, this is it. Like,
he was in. That's awesome.
Let's live here. And and so like we went home, and we didn't mean to move so fast. Like, we took this trip in last November and went home, and I was like, oh, I'll talk to my realtor. I'll see like what it's like to sell right now. I don't know. And then it was just like, got an offer without even listing it. And it was like, are we doing this? We're doing this, right? Like, and we sold the house and we moved by January. Like, it was nuts.
Right.
It was so fast.
It was pretty quick. Well, and it does occur to me that
fast.
It is actually in some ways a very good time to make a change like that, because there's so much, like, if there's nothing else going on other than like a very busy job.
Well, I went from being like part-time nurse and part-time touring musician to full-time nurse and not leaving my house except to go to work.
During a freaking pandemic.
During a pandemic. So there was a big appeal to being like, hey, I'm not traveling, I'm not leaving, I'm not touring. Like, why don't we go move and get set up in a new place? And by the time everything's up and running, like, I'll be ready to go. So it made a lot of sense for me and for my partner and I. So we just did it. And I kind of had the same feeling when I moved to Athens. Like, I'd only been to Athens once before deciding to move, and it was just like,
you like the cut of its jib.
Right. It felt it was the right decision. And I've been in Bellingham for a month, and every day it's like, no, I made the right decision. So it feels really good to be here, and it's a really cool town. It's beautiful. I mean, it's on the water, it's near the mountains. everyone I've met so far has been really, really nice, and yeah, it's really cool. So I know that I made the right decision and I'm in the right spot. So
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Patrick Ferguson of the amazing 5'8" and et al. Crash and Ride, et cetera, says hello. I was talking to him earlier today, so he sends his best.
Patrick. Yeah, he's awesome.
So, and you didn't just leave. You didn't leave your job, your house, your friends. The amazing Mean Queen is a hell of a band. Like I believe I've expressed that time and again. I mean, was that like a difficult decision to factor in because of that? I mean, not that you guys could actually do anything like anything else.
We couldn't do anything. It was, Mean Queen was always the band. So Helen and I have known each other for a long time, and that was the band we started together as adults to like we knew that we, with our jobs, we wouldn't be able to tour much. We wouldn't be able to play shows very much, but we really always just have this need to be, to be writing and being musicians. And we had a lot of practices where we're like, I don't even feel like this band needs to play live shows because I get everything I need from our practices. Like, it was so fulfilling to just write together and play. And so we always knew that band wasn't like, we didn't try to be on record labels. We didn't try to get all these big shows. Our tours were like short weekend tours, and like we didn't expect to make any money off of it. It was, it sounds like a selfish thing, but it was a band for us. It was the band we wanted to be in and write and be proud of the music we wrote and record, and just enjoy the parts of being in a band that we both really, really liked. So that was always Mean Queen's thing, like neither of us was going to quit our job if we got offered a record label, or we started a band when we were in our 30s. Like, you can't necessarily think about that at some point in your life. So it was still hard. I mean, I miss Helen a lot, and we had a couple different drummers, but Tim, like, the three of us wrote really well together. And this record, I've been sitting on a record on the Mean Queen record for almost a year now too. There is talk though, it will be released soon. I don't have any more definite details on that. I wish I did, because I could push it hard here, but
I was gonna say this would be the place, wouldn't it? But give me a Protonic Reversal exclusive.
Mean Queen album coming soon-ish.
Coming eventually.
So that was another record too. Like, I was really busy the year before pandemic hit. Like, I had that Shark record and a Mean Queen record finished like last spring, and Mean Queen had tours and Sharks had tours, and then it all just like hit a wall. So same thing with Mean Queen as Sharks. It was like we canceled summer tours. We held on to the album because we're like, I'm not gonna release it, because we kept hoping like, hey, in a month or two it'll be back to normal. We'll release it then. We'll have a big show. We'll do whatever. And it just never happened. So
no idea what that's like.
So the pandemic really like knocked down half of my life. But it's weird, because when I made the decision to move, like it was really hard to tell them, but I didn't want to stay in Athens for that reason, just because this band could keep playing, or this band could play some shows. Like, I didn't want any of that stuff to hold me back when I knew that it was right for me to go. But the record I'm still really proud of, and it'll be coming out in some shape and form soon.
Glad to hear that. That's awesome.
But that band was really good for me too, because like, going back in my history of being a musician, I left Sharks and I didn't play music for almost a year, and was like in a really weird place in my life mentally, and was like, well, I'm not playing music. What do I do? I'll go to nursing school, I guess. And went to nursing school, and then Manor Astro-Man found me. And
I'm so glad you just naturally segued into this, because I realized we've been talking for about half hour. It's like, I should probably mention Manor Astro-Man at some point.
There's a little band called Manor Astro-Man, no big deal.
Little band called Manor Astro-Man.
little band from Alabama called Manor Astro-Man. That's what Brian Teasley sounds like to me. yeah, so when I started nursing school, I kind of just went to nursing school because I didn't know what else to do. And my mom was a nurse, and she was like, just go be a nurse and you can do a lot of things with it. And I was like, okay, I guess. But I'd always liked school, like through high school and college that I went to. And the nursing school, I didn't like it, but I kept pushing through because I was like, well, this is what adults do. Like, you gotta get a job and follow through it, right? Like,
these are all the things I'm supposed to do. I'm checking the list on the boxes.
And I'm not playing music, so what else am I doing? Like, I might as well just do that. But Man or Astro-Man showed up at a time when I was like starting nursing school, and they weren't touring that much, but it like happened to line up with my school breaks perfectly. And I was like, well, maybe this could be a cool thing to like bring me back to the music world. Yeah. And it really did. Like it did 1,000%. Like, it was perfect timing for them. And Mean Queen happened a couple years later in that same way, where I was like, I love being in Man or Astro-Man, but it's not me. Like, I write with them and play with them, but like I wasn't me in any band. You know, I was a part of Man or Astro-Man that had been this thing for so long, and I
clearly defined identity of just beloved, and for good reason, but like a clearly defined identity. Yeah.
And so I was really craving another outlet, and they gave me confidence in music, like being a musician, to like seek that out. So Mean Queen was that other outlet for me, where I actually felt like myself in a band. And when Helen and I started writing together, it was just like we were really good at writing together. And so that's what that band brought to me, you know, was just being able to like be 100% Sam in that band, and instead of like, I'm a Vonanova in this band and it's really cool and fun and I'm really glad to be a part of it, but this is like me, you know. And that's what the new Shark record too. I mean, I felt more like myself on that record than even when I was 20 years old in that band, you know. And maybe that's just because I'm older and you get to know who you are and like can apply that better than you can when you're, you know, 19 or 20. But Mean Queen really helped me like feel like me in a band and be like, I wrote that riff. Like, I can, you know, I played that and I wrote that melody. And so every band I've been in has kind of like hits me in the right way in a different way, if that makes sense.
No, totally, and it does, and being that being familiar with all of your work, it's like it works different muscle groups almost, right? To use that analogy, and I think that there's something to be said for that. Yeah. So how did you come to take up being a Vonanova? How did you join up with that wacky crew of Astro-Man?
It sounds real boring, but I got a Facebook message from StarCrunch one day that was just like, hey, I saw your band Weavers of the Shark, and we're looking for a new guitar player. We have these couple of tours booked. Like, are you interested? Like, it was real, like, laid back. And wow. And I knew who they were, but I didn't quite know how big and who they were necessarily.
That they, like, world famous,
Yeah.
Paragons of DIY.
And I told a couple friends about it. I was like, this band Man or Astro-Man wants me to be in them. They're like, what? Like, huh? And I was like, should I do it? They're like,
what now?
What? Do it. And I kind of I didn't even research because I didn't want to. I got a reaction from some friends that were like, you need to do this. Go do it. And I was like, okay. And I met
someone asked you if you're a god, you say yes.
But I responded, and like the tour dates lined up with my school breaks perfectly. And I met up with StarCrunch, and he gave me a CD of like 30 songs just to learn. He's like, here's like some of our most popular songs that we'll play in rotation, and just
like
learn a few of them for
set.
practice.
Like, okay, cool. All right.
Yeah. And so me being an overachiever, I learned all 30 songs and went to my first practice and met the other two guys, and they were like, okay, let's play a song. Like, what songs do you know? And I was like, I learned all 30 of these songs. And they were like, we don't know half those songs. Like, what are you doing?
It's like, it's one up on us, lady.
So we played a few songs, and it was really good. And then I think I taught Coco some of the other songs that I had learned that he couldn't remember how to play. And that was our first practice. And we practiced once, and I played my first show at the Earl in Atlanta.
Wow.
And then hold on, the story gets better. So first show, so I had one practice.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, hey, this is great. Yeah, you're doing great. Like, okay. We played the Atlanta show. It went well. And then the next week we flew to Spain to play a festival with Nada Surf and Matthew Sweet. And it didn't, the crazy thing is that it didn't even hit me what I was doing until I was like on this plane flying to Spain on my fall break in school. Yeah. And I was like, wait, what did I sign up for? What am I doing? Right. And then now this year will be my 10-year anniversary of being in the band. So,
which is awesome, and congratulations.
It stuck. I'm the longest running second guitar player.
Oh, so the Ivana Nova character. Did you know about the acronym thing? Yeah, they're all palindrome.
Yeah.
Well, you're familiar with
Starcrunch and I came up with the name. We had like a small list of names, but that one we settled on, and it was a palindrome. And one of my very first bands was named Nova Goes Ballistic when I was 14 or 15. So it was kind of a tribute to my very first punk rock band. And then we kind of played on the.
That's a good word.
Yeah. It's space. They're a space band. So it worked. It checked a lot of boxes. So it has worked out for me.
Did you have any thoughts to like the image that you were going to do? Because obviously those guys have a real locked in thing. This is where I probably should have done some research, because I didn't really know about their live shows. I knew that they were space themed, and then Brian had bought me a dress that was like, hey, this is like a cool silver sparkly dress. Like, I think it'll fit you. What do you think for your stage outfit? And I was like, yeah, that's cool. And it worked out. And then, we played, and I think it was weird because our first couple of shows were festival shows where we had to fly overseas, and so we don't bring our full stage setup, unfortunately. Yeah, you can't.
For all that, because you can't. So I didn't get the full live experience until a couple months into being in the band, when we booked like a US tour, and they were like, okay, we're building all this stage stuff and we're bringing all this with us, and we have a light person and we have all this and this, and so I think I really had to grow into it, because the first couple shows just kind of felt like regular shows, but I was wearing a sparkly dress. And I didn't necessarily have like a band personality or stage moves, or they all have their individual things they do. So I really had to grow into that, but they obviously just gave me freedom to do. They didn't tell me to do anything. They were like, hey, just play the songs, like do whatever you want.
Were there any moments where they're like, yeah, we're dragging this printer along so it can play this song, and you're like, you're doing what are you doing?
Or you just along for the ride? I just went with it. I mean, I wasn't going to tell them what to do, because it took me probably a year or two to realize that I was in this band for good. Like the very beginning, it was supposed to be a temporary thing where it was like, hey, do you want to fill in on these like couple of shows? And they came back. They had taken a long break too, so they were on a long break, on a hiatus, and maybe, I don't know if they ever said that they broke up. They just kind of stopped playing, and then took almost a 10-year break. So when they came back in 2010, maybe, it was kind of just a reunion thing that was supposed to be short-lived. And then their other guitar player, Johnny, got sick and had to leave the band. So I was the fill-in for what was supposed to be just a short-lived little reunion. And then it turned into 10 more years of us playing, because we realized that people still wanted to see our stupid shit. And we wrote an album, and now we're, writing another one. And so, we're kind of just, I think the reunion originally, they were like, I don't know if I still want to play, we'll feel it out. And then it turned into 10 more years of this band's career. So it worked out.
Well, I mean, and speaking of someone who is a longtime fan of the band, I definitely think you brought a massive spark of new energy to it as well, but without losing any of the old power and glory. What made that band great in the first place. Like it was something where, and I didn't know you from Moses. Like when I first saw you play with them, I was like, oh, that new member's cool. Like she's great. Like that's awesome. I think it was was it Bimbos in San Francisco with No, it was before that. It was somewhere.
I hope it was before that because that was a terrible tour.
I saw you.
Because
I think I saw you 2 times in the Bay Area, and the second time was Bimbo's.
That was a tour that we broke down at, and we had to like drive separate cars, and we only had our guitars. And we pulled up to the venue, and they were like, "You get on stage now, like put your dress on, and you're on right now." And like someone else had set up my pedals and shit, and I was like, this is the most stressful like show I've ever played.
Well, and I remember that show distinctly, and that was the second time that I saw you play with them. But I think the some drunk guy, I might have told this when Brian was on this. I got his side of the story from this too. But some drunk guy mistook me for Coco, which is weird because I'm like, okay, and he hands me $20 like, this is for you. You guys are great, man. I was like, thanks. I'm not in the just great. And then I walked over to Coco and told him that story, and he's like, you don't even look at it like me. And I'm like, I know, that's what I said. It was like, that's so weird. And I was like, I know.
That's so weird.
But I passed the $20 along.
Thank you. That was probably all we made that night.
I was gonna say he was because I think somebody mentioned the troubles that you guys had on the stage or something along those lines. But
we broke down in between LA and San Francisco. We broke down, which is just desert, and we were stuck there because they couldn't fix the van for a couple days. But we were trying to play all these shows, like figure out how to. We rented 2 cars and just drove whatever we could fit in there, and then we ended up driving back. Some of us drove back to LA and flew to Vancouver and played our show in Vancouver, and then took a bus somewhere. I think that's where like I was in Bellingham for a day because Carl lives here, and we like drove back from Vancouver on a bus. It was such a mess.
It's like planes, trains, and automobiles for this tour.
Yeah, and it was such a mess. And at the time, all of us were so mad the whole rest of that tour, and we're just like, what are we doing? Like, what is this? And now we can laugh about it, but anytime you mention like a San Francisco show or like West Coast, I think all of us immediately like have that a little bit of like,
have you found it to be I mean, you obviously caught on that the band means a lot to people. Have you found like the fan base to be like pretty receptive, like pretty cool about you being like, the new person in the band?
Very. I think also for them to never really have had a female in the band, like that was a new part of the audience. And I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of fans who like don't know how long Man or Astro-Man's been a band. So we'll play shows and I'll have people be like, oh, I've never heard of you before, but I saw you and that was awesome. And like, it's cool to see a female. Like, that sounds really shitty when I say it that way. Like, oh, you're a female, you can play guitar, cool. But
it's the world we live in.
You know that's not what they. Yeah. Anyways, it's hard to.
And it's always meant as a compliment. Yeah, it's meant as a compliment. It's meant out of excitement, and there's a pedantic way that you could take it that would be instructive but joyless. And I've seen the exact behavior that you're talking about, and it's sort of like every time.
But the people that really like are genuine about it, they're not saying like, oh, you're good for a female. They're saying, hey, it's awesome to see like a female be badass on stage. Like it's not necessarily saying like, oh, you're good for a girl.
It's like, hey, that space attack that was a show that just happened. Like it's pretty cool that it was co-ed. Like that's and it is cool. It
is cool. So I think I bring that like to their game, which has been really awesome. It's been awesome to meet people all around the world and have them be like, I've never seen a female play the way you do, and I don't think that's true. They just haven't seen the right bands. But like, it's really cool to like be that for people, like to be the musician that people see for the first time and be like, wow, like I want to play like that. And I've gotten a lot of compliments like that, which means so much, because I'm just up there being stupid a lot of times. Like,
well, but you're not a stand there and
plinky plonk. I'm like, oh, should I do this? Should I jump on this thing? Like, in my own head, I'm just like a dork on stage. But then, you hear people who are like, that was mind blowing, or that, that makes me want to go home and play guitar. And that means a lot. So I think it's definitely like re-energized the band, but also like brought in this whole new crowd of people who like did not see Man or Astro-Man in a particular way or whatever. Like Man or Astro-Man has energy again, and we, you know, put on a good live show, and we pride ourselves on that. And we want our live shows to be fun, and we want people to feel that way when they see us. You know, we want them to be blown away. And I know every band wants that, but of course we do.
Well, I think I probably mentioned this when Brian was on, but I feel like that's a band that I could drag people out to see without really telling them much about it. I'm like, look, just come out and see this band with me, okay? Like, and then afterwards, you're like, that was amazing. And there's so few bands that I can say that about, but especially that you can say that about all eras and all times. And I probably told this story when Brian was on as well, but even that, like, one of the last shows I saw before COVID that I didn't play, the last one was Shellac, but the one before that was you guys in Milwaukee, and I brought my friend Joe, who he didn't know a freaking note of the music, and and it was like, that was amazing. So it's like, still got it.
Yeah, well, that venue was awesome that we played, by the way. That was like, we were like, there were plants everywhere, and like everyone was so nice there, and the food was great. Like that was a really good tour to be the last tour I was on.
Right.
Like every show was as good as that one, and every venue was as good as that one that we played. And it was, if I had that to be my last tour before pandemic, like I feel really lucky that that's what it was.
I'm glad I went, because we had just gotten back, and like there definitely was a moment of like, well, I could just stay on the couch.
You're like, do I want to go see in a band? Yeah.
But it was fantastic, and I found the ticket in my heavy coat a few weeks back, and I was like, right, I remember shows. That was great.
Yeah.
What's it like writing with those guys? Like writing music?
Writing?
Yeah.
It's not like any band I've ever been in. It's all kind of done long distance because we all live in different places.
Sure.
So, and the way it usually functions is both the Bryans write, you know, they write the main parts of the songs, and then Rob and I come in and add our things. It's still a learning experience for me because we've been a band for 10 years with me in the band, and I've only been on one record and like a couple of singles. Right. So like we've written a bunch of songs that we haven't recorded yet. But the one record I've been in 10 years, it was a crazy experience because we went up to record with Steve Albini, and I got the track like the week before, and they're like, hey, here are the demos. Like, we're going to go up and record next week. Just learn them. So I had never recorded like that before. And then I had never met Steve Albini before. So like, it was this crazy
lot going on for that.
It was a crazy experience. And to go up there and just record an album with Steve Albini with these songs that I had just learned like last week. Like it was kind of nuts. And I don't know that it was the best way to record, but I think that album turned out really good. And I'm happy to be on it. But we're trying to learn from that and not do it that way again.
Because normally you're kind of more of a methodical player, right? Like you want to be real comfortable with the music.
I'm an over analyzer, and I will write and rewrite and then record and then think about it too hard. So it was good experience for me to be thrown in it and be like, hey, guess what? You do know what you're doing enough to like make this okay. So that was good for my confidence. And Steve Albini told me I was a good guitar player. That's really good.
Hey, nothing wrong with that, you know. He would know. Yeah. He sees a lot of them.
Yeah. So that was good for my confidence. But we are working on something, and we're trying to stay active during the pandemic. And kind of do the same thing where I get demos from Brian, and we kind of try to write to it and add to it, and so we're chugging along with the new stuff, but pandemic definitely like put the brakes on things. But Brian's been really good about trying to keep everybody's spirits up and sending new things, or you know, he'll rework a demo and send it and be like, what do you think about this? Like, what do you want to add something? Like, I want to hear you on this, you know. So it's a more inclusive process than the last record, because they really want me to be on it now, which was nice. I think the last record, they're like, hey, you're here. Like, well, you know, we want you to be on a record. But here, like, come play these songs. but now it's more of like they want me more at the beginning of the process, which is good. But yeah, I think we would have had things done by now if pandemic hadn't hit. But that's the theme of this episode.
Yeah, it's Sam, I don't want to break it to you. It's pretty much the theme of every episode these days.
The theme of everybody's life right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But definitely the theme of mine is like, what records could I have already put out by now if we weren't in the middle of the pandemic? And the answer is probably 3. At least 3 would have been properly released and toured on by now. So I'm a little behind.
What do you have you been playing at all? I mean, you said you hadn't been playing guitar like at all, right? Is that
no?
Is it just
another
COVID just kind of killed the ability to play, or is it more of like a not having it in goal kind of thing?
Let's move to the depressing part of the episode, where I talk about where I also talk about how moving has totally distracted my mind from playing. But yeah, it's not just a move. Yeah, I think a lot of people, how do I word this? I feel like there are 2 types of musicians right now during the pandemic, and it's either you're in your house and you're recording everything and you're being very productive and you're like, look, I have time to do this and I can, release all this stuff and I can write and all that. And then there's me, who's like, if I just look at my guitar, I get really sad and I don't want to like pick it up. And I've tried to pick it up a few times. I like unpacked in our second room. I unpacked like set everything up, set up my amps and got everything looking nice, and was like, oh, I'll come around for a little bit. And of course in my head I was like, I probably don't know how to play guitar anymore. Like, do I even know?
Yeah. What is a guitar? Exactly.
That's how deep I went into it, was like, will I know how to hold a pick anymore? Like, that's how far back I've gone.
What is this thing called guitar? Yeah.
Yeah. What? This guitar. Yeah. So, I still know how to play. I even still know how to play Manor Astro-Man songs. I played along to a record. So, I'm good there. But yeah, just that will to play has not been there for me.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has been that I went from part-time nurse to full-time nurse, and that has been very draining. I worked on a very busy floor in Athens, and that's all I did. I mean, and being a nurse in a pandemic, that's all you can do, mentally. Like, I don't know how some of my coworkers like have kids and have a family and have to like, have their kids at home during the pandemic and then like have their other life, because my other life stopped. So, all I've been doing is being a nurse, and it's been exhausting. So I think that's kind of drained a lot of the music side of my brain, and just like, it just made me not want to play. I'm feeling better here since I've been in Bellingham for over a month. I also gave myself a 2-month vacation. So I quit my job and gave myself enough time to like not have to work and really
emotionally recharge a little bit, maybe
like breathe and settle down. I start my new job next week, and it's not going to be stressful like my other one was. Like, I made sure to take my time to find a job that was going to be good for me mentally and physically. And I do feel myself coming back to music now a little bit since I'm here. And of course, just being in a new place and just feeling excited again about everything.
Yeah.
Will bring
you got
that
possibility.
Back to music. Yeah. But honestly, like I haven't really wanted to play guitar in a really long time, and definitely not wanted to write. I think I probably could have recorded some Manor Astro-Man guitar stuff, but I don't know. I listen to the songs motivated. And I'm just like not inspired to like write anything or add anything. And even like, I don't know, there've been a couple songs that I've heard lately that I'm like, oh, I'll try to learn that song. And then I pick up my guitar and I'm like, nah, no, I don't even want to do that. Like, I don't want to, when I was first learning guitar, like you're sitting in your room and you're like, oh, I want to learn how to play that Metallica song. That was
right. Yeah, totally.
And
it's
like,
so cool. That one part's
songs.
So great. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I would be so excited when I figured it out. And now as an adult, I'm like, I don't want to play other people's songs. Like, I don't want to teach myself that. And sometimes I'm like, maybe it would be good for me to like learn someone else's song. And then I sit down and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. So yeah, I think it's just finding the right motivation. And I am feeling better mentally now that I'm here, and like things are exciting, and I got a job that I'm excited about, and just it's all coming back around. But yeah, the past year of just like being in the thick of it with the pandemic has like just really like shut down my musical brain. So
do you think part of it might have something to do with like not having an end goal to work towards or something, where it's like you know there's not like a tour or a record or thing where it's sort of like, oh, whatever. I mean,
I think it was just it was such a big letdown because I had all these things coming up to the pandemic. You know, I had 2 full records that were done in March of last year with big plans to tour on both of them and have those released. And I had a big summer planned, and that Manor Ashman tour, right after that last tour that you saw us play, we actually had another festival circuit in March that was in Spain that we were supposed to go on. So like right from the get-go, it was just like one thing after another. It was like hitting a wall. So it's like I had all these things built up, and then it was just like, nope, like, you know, mow you down. So I think it just took mentally, it just like really like, I mean, I've seemed like I was okay, you know, and and then like threw myself into work because they needed people to work more. So I was like, fuck, I'm not playing music, I'm not touring, like I'll work more, like you know, I'll be there. So I kind of threw myself into work, and I think that like pushed me even further from even dealing with the fact that all these things were put on hold. That was half of my life. So yeah, I'm just now vocalizing and like really working through all of that distress from like half of my life being completely shut down. Yeah. You know, and I'm good at just like distracting myself and just being like, yeah, I'll work more hours. Fine. I'm fine. So, and now that I'm here in a new place, and I'm like, okay, I need to work through, you know, making sure I'm actually fine. And I feel better, and I feel good talking about it. And I feel like it's coming to where I want to play guitar again. And I know that'll come back. But yeah, I mean, this past year has been hard on all creative types. You know, I have a lot of artists and musician friends, and I know that a lot of them feel the same, where like we've dedicated our lives to like doing everything we can so that we can do our art. You know, like I became a nurse so that I could support myself being an artist and a musician. You know, like I have grown into really like being a nurse, and I do like what I do. But if I could choose between getting paid to be a musician or getting paid to be a nurse, I would probably choose musician. You know, like that's just who we are. Those are our brains. That's what we're wired to do, and that's what we love to do. And so I think a lot of creative types have really been hit hard because we're having to put all that stuff on hold. And yeah, it's been pretty hard. I mean, I think I've become a better nurse the past year, which is something to celebrate, but it's like I have had to put everything else on hold when it was going so full steam. You know, it was, I was booked solid, you know, from March on through the end of last year, and all of that stuff.
All gone. The snap of fingers. Yeah. Well, and then the reasons for it to be prolonged just to be so dumb, so just like flat out like objectively idiotic, just like
fighting. It's like so much fighting. And part of the reason I moved out here too is just like Georgia was getting really bad. Like, I mean, I definitely don't want to talk about politics, but like,
it's fine, you don't have to.
I started feeling like I was surrounded by all these people who just didn't give a shit about anybody, you know, like but themselves. And I was constantly, I mean, I had patients in the hospital that told me, like, who had COVID in the hospital, who would told me that it was fake, you know, like, and that it was the mask making them sick, and not that it was a virus. Like I had people telling me that I was wrong, and that everything was fake right now, and I just like was so surrounded by that I was like, what world are we living in? What is this? And Bellingham's a lot more open-minded, and the COVID numbers are like less than half what they are in Athens. And, you know, like, I just feel like people are a lot more respectful here. And so that was a big reason why I wanted to move too, just being like constantly pummeled in the healthcare industry in a state like that, where where a majority of the people just like didn't give a shit or didn't understand or weren't willing to learn, or
It's got to feel like drowning or something.
Telling me I was the one who was wrong. Like I started to be like, am I crazy? Like, do I need to wear a mask to the grocery store? Like, I'm right? Like, I know this, right? And it started to make me doubt everything. It was so weird. It's so weird. But yeah, Bellingham's a lot more respectful, I think. Like I feel it already being here. But yeah, that was helpful. So yeah, I did feel like I was drowning in Athens and in healthcare and pandemic, and then not able to have any sort of output as far as the creative side that let me forget that side. I used to have a really good balance of like working a pretty stressful job, but being able to only work part-time and then have my outlet of, you know, playing music and traveling and constantly moving. And yeah, that part of my life got taken away. So I was just like bombarded with, hey, you're just a nurse now, and here's all these people who are telling you you're doing a terrible job because they don't believe in science. So it's been a very weird year for my brain in here and for everybody.
Well, and you've got a day job that's not only in demand, but is like a yawning maw of need as well. And sort of like, so I've got this, you know, part of my brain where it's like all my creative part of my brain is not able to be utilized. Well, don't worry, because you will never have enough to fill like the hole that is in this other part. Like it'll take and take some more until it literally breaks you.
Yeah.
Figuratively breaks you.
Yep. Yeah. But
yeah,
I like
so
being a nurse. I do. I swear I do.
Well, but I think so. First of all, something that I've heard from listeners of the show is that they actually do enjoy when people who are musicians who do have a day job and do balance it.
Yeah.
Speak to it. Like speak a little bit about that. And
so
I was going to say, you said something really identifiable to me, which is setting your life up in such a way to support the artistic endeavors, and then to have that just, you know, the rug just pulled out from under you. Rough business. So, you know, how did you said you were going to just start in with nursing school when Man or Astro-Man Facebook messaged you.
When they sent me a random message, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'll be in your band. Cool. I don't care.
They slid into your DMs, and you're like, who's Man or Astro-Man? What's this?
I feel like I'm going to make a lot of fans mad at that, because, like, I'm sure a lot of people would, like, really want to be in Man or Astro-Man, and for me to be so nonchalant about it.
Well, okay, so
I know what I have now, and I'm grateful that they wanted me to be in the band, but also, I will say, I think them asking me was also out of convenience because I happened to live down the street from Brian. Like, it was that I lived in Athens. It wasn't that I was handpicked out of like all these bands in the whole country. It was like, hey, this person lives in Athens and it'd be easy for her to be in the band. Like, yeah, I just don't want to like make a lot of fans mad who are like, she didn't even want to be in the band. And it's like, that's not true. It's just I didn't do the research. I didn't know exactly what I was getting into, but it made the experience so much better that way anyway, that I had to like just find that out on stage, what Coco was wearing and what he did. And I was like, oh, this is what we're doing. Oh God. Okay. Yep. Okay. I'm in.
Unfortunately rejected song title from a previous band of mine was There's Something to Be Said for Proximity, which I think is applies to what you're talking about there, but also people that don't have the context. I mean, you know, it's not like, you know, We vs. the Shark wasn't a huge band, but it was a known band. It was a band that, like, you know, you guys were well respected. In your
we
your
were
field.
Big in our region, you know, like we were for indie rock, and like we could sell.
I knew about you.
Sometimes we could sell out the 40 watts. Sometimes, you know, like that for an indie band, like, is not bad, you know.
Yeah.
But that's hard to explain to non-music people. I have non-music people ask me all the time, like, "What band are you in?" And then when I tell them like Man or Astro-Man, we play like surf punk, they're like, "Oh." They're like, oh. or to have patients be like, oh, well, like, are you on the radio? And I'm like, no, not really. And they're like, well, I remember one patient in particular. It's always with the patients because that's my non-music life, you know. So my coworkers and my patients are like, they're not usually non-music people, and they're like, oh, you're in a band, that's cool. Like, are you on MTV? Are you on the radio? Like, were you, you know, whatever? Yeah. And when I'm like, no, I had this one particular patient who was like, well, one day you will. I know. I still remember it because I'm like almost 40 years old. What do you mean one day? Like I've been in this career for 20 years, like 25 years at this point. One day I'll be on the radio because that's the top. Like that's it. Like
the toppermost of the poppermost.
And I wasn't offended. I just thought it was so funny. Like there's just a difference in idea. So when you're like, oh, how big was We versus the Shark? It's like, well, I mean, like we would play some big shows sometimes, which was good for indie bands. You know, like that's what it is, and that's what
Well, and you know, and it's something where there's a certain echelon of bands where you have like the respect of your peers and like the people that like you or other cool creative people, and it's very hard to describe that to somebody outside that world, like why anybody would care about that. Sometimes, unless they also additionally live the life, and you know, that's, you know, you can't eat prestige. But that is a thing. But, it's not very filling.
Yeah.
So in the did you have any thought for gear stuff when you took up with Man or Astro-Man? Did you change up anything or anything along those lines? Did you always favor the weird? I don't know that. I'm just guitar nerdy enough that I know some of the stuff and not all of them, but the cool guitar thing.
It's a Hallmark Swept Wing, so that's like my signature guitar that I carry. But those are actually just Man or Astro-Man guitars. They were like, hey, this is our look. Like, will you play this guitar? And luckily, it was easy to play. So they're all the former guitar players in Man or Astro-Man played various versions of that guitar. So I kind of just took those over. So I have them. Two guitars and a bass that match that are made by a company called Hallmark out of DC, and they're the Swept Wing. But yeah, they outside of that guitar, they didn't really tell me like anything else. They're like, bring whatever pedals you want. Like when we're touring, if you want to use this amp instead of your own, so you don't have to carry your own. So they're pretty like open about it. But I'm also just like, I'm second guitar. I'm not lead guitar, so it wasn't crucial that I like had everything perfect to match up with Star Crunch. It was just like, hey, as long as it sounds good, we're cool with it. But I do know that I brought, because I kind of my like me in music is a lot heavier than Man or Astro-Man. Like I never really played surf music before, and I think what I brought to the band was definitely heavier and grungier and. I think at first it was a little startling to them, and I remember Star Crunch one day he didn't want to like tell me not to do something or not, you know, but he's like, maybe like turn the fuzz down a little bit, like that's all, like, and that was like the only time he's ever said anything, and I was like, God, like tell me what to do, like it's fine, like you tell me what you want out of this. It was like I interviewed for a job and got the job, like train me what you want me to do. Yeah. But they didn't really want to do that either. You know, they were just like, do whatever you want. And now, like, I do remember a few years ago, Teasley said something really, really nice that was like, you really changed this band for the better. Like, you brought in your heaviness and your darkness and the buzz and the, you know, whatever that we didn't think would really fit, but it's like, it's who we are now. And, you know, like, it really changed it in a way that is noticeable, but it's still us. And that was really cool of him to say and to notice, because it made me feel like I'm a part of the band. I'm, you know, because for the first few years I was just like playing a role, and now I feel like I'm in it, you know, like
you can be your authentic self, and it's an integral part of the creative component of what.
Yeah, exactly. So but they'd always kind of given me freedom to. They're just like, no, you play whatever you want, you know, and I honestly don't think there's ever been a time where they didn't, or maybe they didn't tell me they didn't like something, but they like, there's never been a fight over any of that. Like whatever I'm playing, they're like, yeah, it's great, it's cool, like keep doing it, which was very encouraging. It felt like I fit in well, you know. I think if I was really fucking up, they would have told me earlier on, but they just encouraged me to like be myself in the band, and that's how I grew in the band, and now why the band has evolved the way it has in part to do with me and just us, you know, learning how to play together and whatever. But yeah, I was really given the opportunity to just be myself in the band, which was really awesome for a band that had already been established for 20 years to have someone new come in. And then they were like, yeah, just do whatever you want. And then it like worked out. I mean, I think that's pretty cool.
But they're also a band that's embraced change over the years too. I mean, like if you listen, you know, to the very early Estrus records ones, it's like more like, oh no, this is like straight up surf. And then you get to like, you know, Technetium and things along those lines, and they start bringing in like other elements and you know, EVAC. Like it's sort of, you can't just keep, you know, writing the same tune over and over again as much as people like it.
No. And they've always been a band to like push those boundaries too, and it's not that they don't care what people think, but they definitely want to do things that make them happy, you know, and being stagnant is not one of them. Like they wanted to be a surf band, but then they wanted to do all this weird stuff on stage that was out of bounds of, you know, like if you go, we played so many surf festivals that are like strict surf, and it's like a religion, and I appreciate that about it. Like I appreciate how dedicated like people are to that particular genre, but they didn't want to stay, you know, they wanted to be like play whatever they wanted and wear what they wanted and carry a bunch of TVs on tour and like tear up a stage and be the punk rock surf band, you know, because they didn't want to like fit in this like genre. And so even to this day, like sometimes we'll play surf festivals and people will be like, you guys aren't surf, why are you playing this festival? And it's like, well, but so yeah, they've always been that band to like try to break those boundaries and constantly change and make each new record something slightly different to where, you know, it's still them, but it's evolving constantly. Yeah,
you don't necessarily want to be catering to the surf rock stew crowd that like, you know, surf rock stew only like surf rock music, and it's I'm sure you can make a fine career in it, but
but it's very limiting, I feel like. I mean, with any genre, if you're just country and you're not open to doing anything else or not liking anything else, like you really limit yourself, what you're taking in, you know. So you can, I mean, if that's all you like, that's one thing, but it's, you know, I think it can be really limiting if you don't give something else a chance, or if you're just like, that's not strictly this, it's bad, you know.
yeah. So how did you originally start in with guitar? Like, you know, way before we versus the Shark. Like, what drove you to start playing in the first place?
So I moved around a lot as a kid, and in middle school I played sports a lot. And I really wanted to be on the baseball team, but back in my day, girls couldn't pitch overhand on the baseball team. They told me to go play softball, sweetheart, and I probably could have like sued them or something, and my life would be different now. But I didn't, and I got real mad. I got real mad at all sports because I was a teenager, and you know, one person makes you mad, and you're like, well, I'm not playing any sports. Then I don't give a shit. I'm not playing anything. So I made a complete like. There's probably a teen movie about it somewhere, about the jock girl who now really want to be a punk rocker. So I was 12 or 13, and I just didn't want to be in the sports life anymore. And I moved around so much that I didn't feel like I had a good like friend base. And I mean, it made me more independent, but I kind of turned into like independent loner, trying to find my way as a teenager, but also being like real kind of lonely and just by myself a lot. And so I decided I really wanted to play music, and I always sang when I was a kid, and my parents had tried various instruments when I was younger. Like I think I still have a keyboard. They bought me a keyboard when I was really little, and my mom has like a recording of me singing. They're singing along, like playing the keyboard from when I was really little. And then I have an uncle who's like close to my age that I'm pretty close to, that was like my brother growing up, and he played bass, and I thought he was super cool. So I was like, oh, I want to play music, but I don't want to be just like him, so I'll play guitar instead of bass, because you know they're completely different. So I was trying to be cool and independent and not be just like him, but I was trying to be just like him.
I'm doing something totally different over here. This is totally different. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, it's not a bass, it's a guitar. There's more strings.
Please, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, I kind of got inspired by him, and then I played guitar, and I kind of just taught myself. like I said, I sat in my room a lot by myself and learned a lot of Metallica songs when I was 13. It started off as like punk, like, you know, Green Day was punk at the time, and radio stuff, because I didn't know, I was 13. No. If I grew up in Seattle, I'd probably know about Riot Girl stuff, but I didn't. I grew up in Colorado Springs, so it was more like Green Day, and then somehow I listened to Metallica, and it turned into that.
The legacy of that band is storied, but I mean, it's hard to argue that they don't have some pretty unfuckable guitar stuff. Like, it's pretty exciting sounding, you know. Like,
album is punk. Their first album is punk as fuck. Like, come on, like that's it. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. Yeah. I mean, Lars is terrible, but the rest of it's great. So yeah. But yeah, so I spent a lot, like from age 13 to 15, just sitting in my room a lot, like going to school and not really, you know, making a lot of friends, but playing guitar. That was the thing I did. I would come home and really want to play guitar and just trying to teach myself everything I could. And then the last high school I went to that I graduated from, I finally like met a good group of friends. I moved there like end of my junior year and met like a really good group of friends who they were into ska and punk, and they were in a ska band. And so I kind of went that way for a little bit and started a band with some of them. And that was, I think when I was 15, it was Nova Goes Ballistic. That was my first like real band that played shows. And by shows, I mean like at a church or at a, I don't know. I don't even remember where else we played, but yeah, it was just like our friends getting together. But it was like the first time I was writing stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. So yeah, it just evolved from there.
Was that your first experience, like writing songs? Was in that band?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you?
14, 15.
Did it feel natural, or were you just like, wait, you can do this? Like, you know, what was that?
I think it made me like some bands less. Like, I started writing songs, and I was like, this shit's easy. Like, why is this band so popular? Like, their songs are so easy. So it actually made me, it made me feel pretty good when I started writing songs, because I was like, oh, I can do this. Yeah, it's good.
Do you have any specific, sometimes I don't do it that often, but I think it could be kind of interesting. Any specific worst show, best show memories for any band, just of like, you know, a show where, you know, maybe there was something memorable yet terrible or disappointing or awful or hilarious in the way that, you know, tragedy plus time equals comedy.
Yes, one comes to mind, and I think to this day it's probably the biggest show I've ever played in my life, like as far as attendance. But we're in Sao Paulo, Brazil. This is with Manor Astro-Man. And in Sao Paulo, and they have this gigantic art and music festival. I think it's every year. But our stage was basically on this downtown street. And when I was on the stage, you could not see where the crowd ended. Like that, it just was like a straight street downtown. And it was just like people, like, I don't know how, I can't even guess how many people it was. So I'm pretty sure it's the biggest show I've ever played.
Yeah.
And there were like there were so many people that there was the stage, and then farther back there were big screens, because there were cameras on it, so that they could put us on the screen so that the people in the far back could see it. Like, sure,
because they're so far away, you know.
Yeah, it was massive.
I'm not going to. Yeah.
So it started off as a pretty like normal show for us. Like, I was extra excited because it was so big, and I didn't feel nervous, and that was a cool thing, you know. Or I was like, it's a lot of people, and I feel really good about playing. And then where it started to go funny wrong was that I don't remember who got off stage first, but part of our thing, you know, is sometimes we get down in the crowd, or we find something to climb on, or we do some stupid shit that we hope will work out and look cool and people will think it's awesome, or we run the risk of either falling and breaking our leg, or hurting somebody, or hurting ourselves, or something. Most of the time,
massive injury or tragedy. Yeah,
I don't think any of us have broken a bone on, well, yeah, I don't think so. Not since I've been in the band, but so at some point Star Crunch jumped down, and we were just, it was like Teasley and I on stage. Like, both Coco and Star Crunch had jumped off the stage, and they were kind of split, like they went further down. into the crowd. And then it was like just Teasley and I on stage, and we're just like, okay, rhythm section here. Like, we're just going to keep going. We don't know what they're doing, when they're going to come back. And I look up, and Star Crunch has climbed the little tower to get in front of the screen. So it's like big him on a screen and little him playing guitar in front of it, which was rock star moment, like super awesome
visual,
and big.
cool
and
visual,
then,
sure,
and then Coco started crowd surfing, and which was also another big rock star moment. Like, you're crowd surfing, and it's awesome, and it can just go forever. But then it went forever. Like, they kept taking him further. Coco kept surfing the tide. The tide took him out into the ocean. He kept going and going. And then Star Crunch like managed to climb off this thing, but like security wouldn't let him back the way he came or something. So it's just me and Teasley on stage, and we're just like looking around. We're like, okay, keep your game face on. Like, we're gonna keep this song going. And like, they just disappeared. And I swear it was like 30 minutes of them being gone. And then I think at some point, I think there's a picture of it somewhere on the internet. I think Teasley got out behind the drum set and like grabbed we swapped instruments, or like, I think there's a picture of him playing my guitar around me or something like that. Because we were just trying to think of things in the moment to like keep people's interest who were right there, and they couldn't see anything else that was going on. And it just like, it felt like forever. Like, it felt so long. And I was like, people paid for this shit. Like, what? Like, is this good? Is this okay?
Is this performance art? What's happening right now?
And then later that night we were on MTV Brazil, so it was okay. So it ended up being cool and redeeming. But in the moment, it was just like, this could have been really cool, but it turned into this really long thing where like 2 of our band members got lost, and security wouldn't let one of them back, and it just like turned into this like this whole thing that really did not need to go on for 45 minutes like it felt like it did. But yeah.
what was the crowd reaction in that moment? Were they all just kind of like, yeah, cool? Like, did people think that this is part of the show, or what?
Yeah, they were into it.
Right.
I feel like they're always into it. I feel like there's rarely a moment at a Man or Astro-Man show where something goes horribly wrong and people aren't just like totally into it. You know, like, where was it? I think we had a West Coast tour and played in San Francisco, and I think it was our first or second show of that tour, and Star Crunch like knocked over his amp during one song, and it literally broke like right there, and like we had broken. And so what Bird Stuff does to make up for that chaos is he breaks something else, you know, on purpose to be like, oh, it's part of the show. And people are they're just into it. They're just rarely does that stuff happen where people are like, oh, this is stupid. Or maybe those people are there and they just walk out and they leave, and I just don't. I ignore that, and I just think everyone thinks that it's awesome, and it's silly. So yeah, it's usually people being excited about us breaking things, and yeah.
That was at the Independent. That was I was at that one. That was the first time I saw you play with Man or Astro-Man. That was a great show.
Oh yeah,
awesome.
That was a really good show. Yeah. I think at the end of that show though, we broke everything. I think that was the show, because it was like 2 days into that tour, and then we had to go the next day and leave early so that we could find someone to fix his amp. And it was, we go to Guitar Center a lot also, like for drums. I don't know why Bird Stuff isn't sponsored at this point, but he breaks so much stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen him purposefully impale the drums more than a few times. He does that almost every night. He almost does that every night, and then he doesn't have backup like drum heads a lot of times, and so we always have to make a detour. And it's like, you know, if we just planned for this, we could sleep a little more. Yeah. We didn't have to constantly be picking up new supplies to destroy that night.
Yeah. But his drum sculptures are very impressive, I will say.
Some of the
times they're very tall. Like and it's not the same every time. Like, he's very methodical about it, and he's very artistic. He's very artistic about it. Like, every night it's like, okay, on this stage, how can I make the best drum sculpture? It's never the same, and it's never in the same order, and he's very creative.
Do you have any, like, it almost seems like this Sao Paulo show could be like also best show moment, but do you have any like just like, oh my god, best show ever, like stories that you could share?
Best show ever.
Or even like something that you thought was going to be not awesome and it turned out pretty great in a momentous way.
I think we have a lot of those as Man or Astro-Man. I'm going more to Man or Astro-Man because they're the band I've played with the most in the past decade, and so a lot of those shows stick out a lot more to me. I think a lot of those. I'm trying to pick out like a particular one, but I think just there are a lot of Man or Astro-Man shows that we pull up to these venues, and we're just like, this is going to be a terrible show. Like, why are we playing? Like, who booked us here? This is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
And I don't mean to sound like a brat when I'm like, who booked us at this venue? You know, like, that's not what I mean by that. It's just like, our shows are all over the place. Like, we'll play venues that are like, you know, Georgia theater size or, you know, bigger that are, you know, 1,000 people or, you know, more, you know, whatever. And then we'll pull up to a venue that's like a 50 cap with like really low ceilings and like a shit, you know, like total dives that are very fun to play, but it's hard with Man or Astro-Man to play those shows.
Yeah, wild antics are very dangerous when you have low ceilings.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I hear. Anyway,
there was a show. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the place. It was in Savannah, and it's not the Jinx. But there was a place there that
Wormhole. It's the Wormhole.
The Wormhole, yes. Where we pulled up there, and it was
that
like
ceiling is so low.
It was so low, and we had these screens that opened up, and we had a friend of ours who was our lighting guy and like would set up that stuff for us so he could do his projections. And we had to literally go to Home Depot during sound check and buy hardware to cut the screens down so that they would fit on the stage, like right there. But then that show ended up being great. Like, you know, like you start off seeing a place like that and going through sound check and you're like, oh, this is going to be like, or this is going to be a practice show, or this is going to be whatever, like who's going to come to this show? And then it ends up being packed full and you sell the most merch and you have the best, like sweatiest time with feeling this low and having to like reconfigure your whole thing. So yeah, I remember that show in particular, being like that, where we're like, what?
Isn't it amazing that I immediately knew where you were talking about?
You knew where it was.
Yeah. I was like, I know where it is.
That's how small. That's how small world like indie rock is, I think. Yeah.
I remember being like, was this a bet? Like, was someone like, I can make a venue with like the lowest ceiling? Like what?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
they
great,
win. I think they win. Yeah.
It seemed very bizarre to me. Yeah. That's awesome. So with the move to Bellingham, you've got a whole kind of world of possibilities, going in front of you. I mean, do you have any ideas for, you know, what quarter two 2021 for Sam Paulsen might look like? I mean, you have an uncertain future all around, but it is uncertain. I haven't thought that far ahead because it took a lot of planning just to get here where I am right now, like in the past couple months, that I haven't had time to even think about that. I would like to think it's a possibility that live music could come back by the end of the year, but at being a nurse and seeing the rate of vaccinations that are going out, I don't want to be too optimistic about it, unfortunately. So I don't know. I don't want to make big strides to like start booking shows at the end of this year and then have to cancel again. So I kind of feel like as far as me personally, I really want to get back on track with writing and getting myself mentally back to being a musician before even talking about booking a show or talking about live music coming back or going to a show. Like, I just don't think we're even close to that yet, unfortunately. Yeah, bummer. Yeah. This is where people shut off the episode and they're like, fuck you, no, turn it off. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just trying to be realistic. Like, we thought this shit was going to be over by last summer, and here we are into almost March of the following year. Like, we're not doing things correctly. Like, maybe things are slightly better, but I still see people going full on out to restaurants and not wearing mask places
and they're not helping. You know what I mean? Like, people still aren't like and I feel like sometimes I'm too strict with it, you know, like I haven't been inside a grocery store in forever. I haven't eaten in a restaurant in a year. Like I take it seriously, and sometimes I think it's too far, but then I'm like, no, like if everybody did this, like the first go around,
it would have been over.
Fucking be here. We wouldn't be here. And it's so I don't want to be too optimistic about like, cool, vaccinations are here, we're back to normal, because it's not going to do that. And people are even hesitating about getting vaccinations. So it's like, how long is that going to push things back? Where like I know they're not available to everybody now. I was lucky enough to be in healthcare and I'm fully COVID vaccinated, but I'm still careful. I'm still wearing a mask. I still don't want the variants. I don't want my partner who's not vaccinated to get it. And we're taking that very seriously. And I just see a lot of people not doing it. So I don't think live music and art is going to have a strong comeback anytime soon, unfortunately. So I would rather focus on getting myself and making sure my friends are back to an okay place mentally to like write again or play again in any form, you know, but not necessarily like back to touring again or back to normal.
Well, because how could anybody with a conscience do so? If you know that you're propagating something that is like actively causing harm and death. Let's not forget death to the world. Have you seen, like, there are places in the country that are throwing what they're calling COVID festivals, where they're like having people come, and there's even a venue in Athens that I read about in the news that opened up, and they're having like cover bands booked. And like they're not being shut down because they're following the rules in Georgia, where I don't know how they're doing it, but it's happening. But no one in their right mind, like us, we're not gonna go. Why would you go?
Who's gonna go? We're not gonna.
Come on.
No, I'm not gonna risk
go. I'm not gonna
COVID
play
for a fucking stupid cover band at some shitty bar. Like,
believe me.
As much as I want to, I would do that on a normal night, but I'm not gonna do that right now, and I'm not gonna book my band to play a show when it could hurt my fans and my friends and my like people coming out. Like, it's not there yet, and it's not going to be there for a while because people are just not taking it seriously.
I mean, not even being able to settle upon an agreed upon set of facts about what's happening is just, I mean, that's insane. Like it's but I mean, there's been a through line to all of this, right? Like there's been multi-decades that this has been built up to this, but I never thought that there would be an active rejection altogether of a reality, basically, which is what this is. I mean, let's be clear. Like, you know, I don't care. I don't give a damn what your political leanings are. Like, if you're saying that it's not real, or like that it doesn't affect you, or like this it's drunk dad logic is what it is. Like it shifts. It's like, that doesn't even make sense. Are you even listening to what you're saying? And I don't know. Like, I'm not gonna be nice about it. To hell with them. You're actively making the world terrible. It's your fault.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, I definitely I had my moment where I'm like, cool, I hope they get it and they die. There you go.
It's easy to feel that especially when
it won't be them.
So hard.
It'll be like people around them, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, that's what's happening. And I've seen it firsthand. Like
I know you have, and that's why
the patients who are arguing with those of us that have a degree. I don't have a degree in COVID, but I know enough of the science behind it, and I know that our research on it is evolving, and that we're trying to learn more about it because it is a new virus. But we all know enough about vaccines, and the science world knows enough about all this stuff that we should be listening. And way too many people are not listening. And
and I think that. And there's also, but on the other side, there's also alarmist talk of like, well, this is going to be with us for forever. It's like, well, so's influenza. You know,
and
people get the
kills
flu.
People every year, it does, but but we have the flu shot, and that cuts down on it drastically. You know, and it cuts down on a lot of things, and that's what we're striving for with this too.
And we will get to that point if we take the actions that are required to do so. But it's like we're just failing to do that, and just making the world actively crappier and crappier. Anyway, I'm gonna get down off my soapbox now about this, and also everybody knows this.
Anyways, But it feels good to like get it out, doesn't it? Like to call
It does.
like to call it out, like feels good. So it's okay. Yeah. We had it. Let's talk about something happy now. What should we talk about? Should I change my background for you? Well, no, people are listening. That's not going to be exciting for them. I'm going to change it anyways. You can keep talking. Like. I'll change it, and then when you laugh at it, you can.
Okay, sounds good.
How about this one?
Well, that's good. That's good. That actually would this background, which is the This Is Fine cartoon background, that would have been perfect for the conversation we just.
I know. I should have changed it. I should have changed it earlier. Yeah, I was a minute behind. Yeah.
That's good.
I still really like. I think this one I should have changed to when we were talking about me moving to the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah. It's for the audio listeners, Sam has changed the background to be the two main characters of Twilight.
Okay, we'll go back to space themes. Here we go. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Got to keep it space themed. So the We versus the Shark record, people can get it. It's available. It's on the internet. Things along those lines.
Ernest Jennings Records. Thank you. And yeah, it's on Spotify. Yeah, it's on vinyl. It's on digital. All the things. All
the normal things that you would think that might be on.
No CDs, no cassettes, but that's not so normal anymore. So yes, digital and vinyl.
Was there ever any thought to doing like a streaming thing or something along those lines? People seem to like that. I don't know.
We did talk about that too. Instead of doing tour, when we like canceled Shark Tour, we had talked about like maybe we can just all be in a room and video it, and it just wasn't safe enough at that time, over the summer too, especially with two of them living outside of the state, like Jeff living in New York, like it just didn't seem like a good idea to get us all in a room to stream. And I think with all of us living so far apart now, it's probably not going to happen anytime soon.
Logistically infeasible.
Yeah. And I don't think the technology exists. I could be wrong. Maybe if someone's listening and they know that this technology exists, let me know. But if we could all be like this and do a Zoom concert where we're all in separate, spaces that are safe, but like that's not going to sound or feel good. So how do you do it? I don't know. I don't feel the same with streaming. I've watched a couple streaming performances from bands I like, and it's cool that they're getting to do it. It probably feels good for them to play. But like as a performer, I just feel like it would feel very flat to just play for a video camera and hope people are watching, or maybe just see like Instagram live, like 3 people are watching. Like would that feel as good as a real show where 3 people were there, or worse or better? I don't know.
Interrupt the doom scrolling for a second. Yeah,
I can't. I can't get the energy up to like. I just don't think it'll feel good. So
the ones that I've liked have been like kind of more produced affairs where it's something where it isn't just like a band in a room. It's like, oh no, they're making some kind of cool thing, and that's sort of like I'm into that. I think that's cool.
Cat's Cradle is doing it. Have you caught any of the Cat's Cradle? They're doing like live stream shows.
I've seen they've been doing it though.
Yeah, but it's like the sound is really good. My best friend's band, Totally Slow, who he didn't pay me to say that. They did it recently, and it sounded really good, like video and audio quality. So like they had people there, like it was professional and put together, but it still like had the energy of like a live rock show. So I think that's been my favorite one so far that I've seen, because you're right, like having good quality sound and audio like makes a difference in those streaming videos instead of just like a blown out speaker. I feel like I don't have the technology or
somebody's iPhone in a corner.
Yeah, it's just gonna be my iPad in the corner and me like playing my guitar at full volume, and it's gonna sound like shit. And like, I don't think it's worth it.
Yeah.
So.
2 viewers. Yeah. Yeah, and I don't like to like get off on a rant or anything, because I don't want to, whatever's working for other people, hey, good for you. Like that's awesome. But it's as someone who, so much of my life is built around not just playing but seeing live music. It just doesn't hit the same for me, and it doesn't mean it can't be cool and it can't be interesting, but
I want to feel it.
Exactly.
I want it to shake my insides, like that's why like the music I do. I mean, I like listening on headphones a lot, and listening to an album is a different experience, I know.
Yeah,
and
totally.
I do enjoy that, but yeah, like watching a band play live when it's loud and it like physically moves you is a whole other experience that you can't really get from watching a live stream or a concert on TV. You know,
there's nothing quite like it, and I think even people that are into like the live streaming thing will all. I don't think anyone's going to be like no. I think everyone's going to agree with that statement, but it bears reiteration because you know it's just a bummer, man. It's just a bummer.
Yeah. The world's a bummer right now. Yeah.
So what do you anything on the Go By Guitar record did you like to particularly shout out or highlight? Sometimes I do a thing where I'll go through each song or record song by song, and that can be kind of cool if you're down for that.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Cool. So first song is No Negative Space Rules Forever.
Yes. This was a very sharp introduction to this album. To me, it was I don't know, it's not my favorite song on the album, but I think it's the best song to open up the album. I'm trying to think of anything particularly from recording or anything that stands out, and I don't think it does. Like, I think it's a really solid song and a good song, but we definitely all agreed that this was the opener. Like, when we were talking about track order, it just made sense because with us coming back and this being like a decade after our last album, this just made the most sense for people, one, who had never heard us, and two, who had heard us, who knew what we were about. This song makes the most sense as that introduction. So I do know that was like a no contest, like album opener from the start. And that was
good.
weird because it's a good thing to like agree on that, because we were trying to like move other songs around and like, wiggling other songs, but that was always the one that was like, no, that's it. That's the opener. That's it.
I feel like it used to be first song and last song were the most important ones, and then like when vinyl came back, it's like, okay, well, how does side A end and how does side
A and side? Yep.
But now it's like the all most important one is what song is going to be first. Yeah. And it's good to agree with that.
On platforms like Spotify, like that people are maybe only going to listen to that first song or two, so you have to make sure it's like. And the same goes for like any media, like CDs. I mean, how many CDs did you buy when you were a teenager and put in and listen to song one? You wanted it to you want that song to hit and drag you into it, and
got to get the attention right away. It makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, don't put the.
But it can't be your best song. It shouldn't be the best song. No. You got to work up. So it has to be like the perfect song to make people want to listen more, but not be the best song because you don't want to let them down in the rest of the album.
Right. Oh, the first one's great, and then it kind of peters out after that.
Yeah, then it kind of, exactly.
So second song, We All Get a Raise, which I love that title.
We All Get a Raise. Yeah. That was okay, so I did a lot more vocals on this album than I'd ever done with any Shark stuff, which was just me being more confident in vocals and wanting to sing more, and they wanted me to. So I think it took me a long time to literally find my voice because I was always so shy when I was younger. And then when Shark started playing, I sang a little bit, but I was always like really quiet and nervous, and they really like helped me build my confidence in singing more. So I knew this record, I really wanted to sing a lot more. I think recording vocals is my favorite thing to do. I like recording guitar, but to me, recording vocals is more, I don't know what about it is more anything, but I just really like it. And I've really grown to like know my voice, I think, and know what I can do. And I think I didn't know how to do that with the first Shark record. So this record, it was really me like knowing how to write vocals for my voice and record them. So I'm really proud of the vocal stuff I did on this record. And that's the first song I think that's the first vocal song I recorded for this album. And then the lyrics are about work basically, and how like it actually stemmed from like being in a work meeting, and instead of like giving us a raise for our good work, they just like bought us pizza. It's like that kind of idea of like,
yeah,
hey, keep up the good work. Like, we all get a raise, and it's a pizza party. Like, it was just kind of that idea. So, yeah.
Classic move.
Classic. Yeah. I'm not claiming I have the like most best newest ideas and lyrics. I just write what I know.
I mean, I think it's relatable to like most people that either have to work a day job or have had that kind of experience in their life. It's certainly relatable.
Yeah.
Number 3 is Righteous Vibes.
Righteous Vibes is the song that we thought would be the number 1 hit on the album. It's like it was like a little too sweet and catchy at first. Like it was a little too like, hey, we're a rock band, Righteous Vibes. Like it was just
sure.
Like even the name Righteous Vibes, like it was so not us. But then it turned into us entirely. Like I think that song especially just like captures how we all felt like writing the album, because it's so positive and it's so just like, I don't know. I know that's the song I have a video for in my head, and I think we all wanted to make a music video before pandemic, and that probably would have been the song we have a music video to, or we would have. But yeah, that to me is like the song that I want to like be featured on a Lifetime movie or something. Right. Like it's kind of like poppy generic that it could be picked up for something stupid like that, and I really want to see it on like the stupidest thing.
Like the moment where the lost family pet is found or something. And
exactly. But yeah, I think that song it like kind of captures the whole way we felt making the album. Like we did feel very good about it, and that song is just like so light and upbeat, and it just that was the whole vibe throughout this whole album. It was righteous. It really was.
Some righteous vibes, man. Just
righteous vibes, man. Yeah, this is righteous.
I am never going home for Christmas again.
Oh, okay. That was a baritone song. That song. I don't know what do you want me to say anything particular about these songs or just whatever?
Yeah, please. No. That's exactly.
I feel like I'm describing. Okay, cool. That's
the bit, my friend.
That song took the longest song to mix on the whole album.
Really?
That song had so many things. It had double baritone. It had my little soft vocals with the mighty baritones. It just had everything. It was loud and heavy, but then it was like sweet and poppy because that's what I did with it vocally. It took so long to mix because we did a thing that sound engineers hate, where we all were like, no, I want more of my guitar in there. And then I was like, no, I can't hear my snare. Like, can you turn up the snare? Can you turn up this? Can you turn up this? Can you turn up this? To where when we finally got to it, everything was turned up here. And we had to like break it all down. And our good friend Mike Albanese, he's in Maserati and Cinemechanica, and he's basically been the person to record everything with me personally, with all the Shark stuff, and with Mean Queen. Like he's my guy. He basically just had to tell us like, stop telling me things. I'm just gonna like start from the start. Like, we have blown this shit out. It is now too loud. Everything is all the way up and it sounds like shit. Like, we're starting again. And so that was the song that we all loved so much that we wanted it to sound so big and good. And in that, we just like drove him crazy with it, that he had to just like tear it down and start again. But I think it ended up being one of the strongest songs on there. Like, it has one of my favorite riffs to play. The little baritone riff is cool. And then I think my favorite vocals maybe that I did on the album. And it turned out, this is another song too that I think could be on like a Disney Channel teen movie. You know, it has like that vibe with my poppy, my like poppy sort of vocals, and it sounds like the lyrics are written in a way to sound like I was in high school when I wrote them, and it was about like a family member of mine dying, and very like feeling these emotions like I felt when I was in high school and trying to relay that as an adult. and I kind of wanted it to come across that way. So yeah, this is one of my favorite songs on the album for that reason, that we all fought for it so hard for it to sound the best it could. And yeah, but it was a really tough one to mix because it just had so much stuff on
There's
it.
a lot going on. Yeah. Well, that's one of the things I dig about it. That's one of my favorite, for whatever it's worth. That's one of my favorites on the record too.
Yeah.
I think that's a good representation of what the band does too. Like a little bit, there's almost like a little bit of everything in there, which is kind of nice.
And that's what we've always done. I think all of us have a little bit of ADD, and we just like, when we started writing together, we were called Massey because we didn't play in 4/4 time the whole time.
Exactly. Massey,
and
what does that mean?
It wasn't that we were trying to be weird and off kilter. We just we would get bored playing like the same verse a second time. So we're like, what can we do in this verse to change it? Like, let's add this thing. And how about for the second chorus, instead of playing the same chorus, we're going to extend it into this thing, and we're going to throw another baritone guitar in there. We're going to do this. Like, that's always been our thing, and people either hate it or love it. You know, like, we've been told that we do too many things, you know, and I get it, but it like keeps my brain entertained instead of just like playing the same verse, chorus, verse, you know, like we just always tried to do what made us happiest in that song. And sometimes that was just playing something different every verse. I mean, it sounded like 10 songs in one, and that annoyed a lot of people, but that's fine. It was fun to play. So that's what that song is. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you know, you want to ride the line to keep yourself interested and sounding like you're getting paid by the part too.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Oh, we'd have made millions on this album, I know.
Yeah. Finally, we cracked the code.
Finally.
In reverse.
In reverse. That song, half of it is literally in reverse. Yeah,
Truth in the advertising department.
Yeah, we actually talked about making that our first single because we thought it'd be hilarious to have a really short song where half of it, the second half was literally like slow down in reverse, like fucking nonsense. And we're like, that'd be hilarious. Let's do it. But we didn't. Yeah, that's literally it. And I think the most impressive thing about that song is Luke, the other guitar player, actually, there's a little guitar solo thing in the middle, and he learned how to play it backwards. And played it backwards, and then it's played forward. So there's literally things that are in reverse on that whole thing.
That's great.
And that was just us having fun in the studio and being like,
what if
I learned how to play it? Like, it sounds like it's backwards, and then when we play it forwards, it's forwards, but it's actually backwards. So it's like, whoa, we're just stupid. Yeah, it sounds fine.
Let the wrong one in.
This is one of my favorite dual Luke and Sam vocals of all time. I really loved writing to Luke. Had written his vocals first, and I got to write to his and sing along with him, which is something. Usually what we do is we each take our own songs and we're the main everything on it, and this was the first that it was more like two of us instead of just one, and I really loved doing that. And yeah, his lyrics are my favorite on this song. I think they're really strong, and I love this song.
It's always a little different when you're writing with multiple voices too. You got to decide whether you're going to compliment or contrast. You got to, you know, how are you going to fit it in? You know, style, beats, et cetera.
Yeah.
Who's got the chrome?
Who's got the chrome? This was a song that I had the least amount of guitar stuff to do in it, but it was really fun because it was mostly just like guitars, which are really fun to do sometimes. So this was a Jeff heavy song, which we each have our own style, and you can tell who wrote a majority of the song. Once you get to know us, I think you can tell, and this is a very Jeff heavy song, and he's So this is the Jeff song of the album. I feel like that it's him, and he's great at everything. So yeah.
It's the most distilled Jeff.
I feel like this is a song I did the least in, actually, because it was like one guitar track for me, and it was a pretty straightforward one, and that felt weird, but then it was like, this is what I need to do on this song. Like, that's all I need to do. So yeah.
You used up all the parts on the other song, you know, so.
I did. Yeah, I ran out. I met my quota. And I didn't have to do any more after that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, man. We're full up on riffs for this one.
All out of notes.
We Said No Deadlines.
Yeah, that title literally is just that we started writing this album and said, hey, we're not having, like, we're making this for us. And then it turned into, hey, okay, we have this record label and they want it done here. We need the artwork here. And I was still writing fucking lyrics. So I was like, hey, guess what? I wrote this song called We Said No Deadline. So it is literally a song that I was like mad about having deadlines.
The meta commentary is strong. Yeah.
And that's the genius behind my lyrics. I was just kind of mad in the moment and being like, dude, why am I rushing this shit? Like, we said no deadlines. And then I was like pushing to get it done, and it actually turned out pretty good.
But that's an evergreen topic, though. I mean, that's that's relatable, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I say that as someone who has a tendency to set arbitrary deadlines for things that nobody cares about all the time, too, by the way. Yeah. And then be like, wow, why do I have this arbitrary deadline? It's just the see the cartoon of the guy on the bike, putting the stick in the front wheel and knocking himself off.
Yeah. This is the song too. Oh yeah, this is the song too that has all the self-references. So this is I think this is the point in my songwriting where I was like, I don't know what the fuck to write about, so I'm just gonna write about this band. Like I'm here and we set no deadlines, and then I'm gonna reference. So there are a lot of references from other lyrics and other songs of ours. And it's kind of about how the band is playing again. Which sounds stupid when I say it out loud. It does, but it's what made sense at the time. So
it's not often done in rock music, but they do it all the time in like rap and stuff. It's like the idea of there being like, no, this is the song where I announced that I'm back and rapping again. Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
And nobody thinks about it.
Just did it. When Stefani just reintroduced herself, like no one knew who she was. Like what?
Like we know who who you are, right?
Like I had to do it because I'm in an indie rock band. Like Gwen Stefani didn't have to do that, but I had to do it, and I wrote a whole song about it. So
right. The Invincible Hand.
The Invincible Hand. That was the song that we thought should be an outro, and it's a very good end of album song, but we changed it last minute. But that's actually the first song I recorded vocals to, and I was the most nervous because I went in thinking I was just gonna be listening to them doing stuff, and then Jeff was like, hey, record some vocals right now, and I was like not prepared. That was like the very first thing I did on this record. That was that was my first actually getting back into recording with this band was this song. So and I think this song's really powerful. It's really big, and I think it's really big for us. It's definitely not a song I ever thought we could write, but I think we did the most us with it that we could. But yeah, those big belted notes that I sing on the chorus, that was the first thing I recorded after not having recorded vocals.
Oh man!
There and I was like, well, I just
0 to 60.
And I was like, here I am, like here we go. So, yeah, it worked out.
Let's roll.
Yeah.
And then you close out the record with Creme Brulee.
Yeah. So that's the stupidest song ever, but I love it so much. That song literally, I think the lyrics are literally about Jeff making creme brulee at the restaurant job he had at the time. And I know there's deeper meaning to it, and you can have him on your podcast and he can tell you about it. But that song was just like a silly thing that we threw together with like a really cool Stone Temple Pilots 90s riff that was really fun to play. And there's like probably 10 guitar tracks of just that riff. And it was a total We versus the Shark thing to do in the studio and just like keep adding layers of that riff guitar. And then we had our friend Joel who mastered the album, and he's helped record our stuff in the past. And we didn't play him the song. We just told him to come over to the studio and that we wanted him to do something on the album. So we put the headphones on and we're like, I'm going to point when I want you to do something. And so the part in the middle where it slows down and he starts talking about creme brulee is all off the cuff.
That's
and
amazing.
So him just like, he got to the studio and he's like, what do you want me to do? And we're like, the song is called Creme Brulee, go. And he did it. And so you can hear us in the background laughing our asses off. And we saved that first take and we're like, that's it. Like
that's awesome.
It's such a silly song, but it's really fun, and it kind of just embraces every every person that's been a part of Sharks and the fun we have with it and the silliness of it. And yeah,
well, it's not.
I like having it in the album because it's so positive and fun, and
Yeah,
it's just like, yeah, it's silly, but it's also very much us, and I love that about it.
well, it's not that it's an unserious band or record in any way, but there is a breezy element of fun to all of the work that you put into it. I think that's a fine line. You know, you can go like just a touch over this way, and it turns into something pretty bad, and touch over this way, and it doesn't. I think you made a great record, and I think it's a shame that the circumstances being what they are, you know, it's going to have to find a life in a way that is not going around and playing these tunes currently. But I think it's great, and I mean, I've been shy about saying that. I have 2 more things, Sam. It has been great having you. First is, I think this is awkward as hell, but who's your favorite other Astro person?
Oh, did someone put you up to this, or is this your question?
I'm not going to say.
Let's see. Like right now, right this second, because I think it changes all the time.
This is the diplomatic answer. All right.
I know. They're all so wonderful and great and smart and attractive, and I think right now in this moment, Bird Stuff is my favorite. He, not just because he just bought me a new guitar pedal. He texted me yesterday. I think part of me now thinks that he bought me a new guitar pedal and texted me yesterday about it so that I wouldn't talk shit about him today on the podcast. Now that I think about it, that might be why. But it was a really sweet gesture. He bought me a new guitar pedal, and he just texted me and said, "Hey, sometimes when you get a stupid new piece of equipment, it can like make you excited to play again." And I thought maybe this would just be a little gift to maybe push you in the right direction.
That's really sweet.
That was really sweet.
Yeah.
And he often does stuff like that, and it's very sweet. And he's very funny. He has made me do the most Vine videos on tour ever. Remember when Vine was a thing?
I do.
There are lots of Vine videos of me on tour doing really stupid shit with Brian. So I think on tour, he's the most energetic and fun. And I think right in this moment, because he sent me a present yesterday, he'll be my favorite right now.
Lovely. That's awesome. And then last thing, this is a much more serious question. You can choose to interpret it however you like. It's something I ask everyone at the end of the show. But why do you do what you do?
Why do I do what I do? Is that, you said I can interpret it any way I can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am a nurse because I really like helping people. And that sounds very generic, but I mean it. I want people to be happy and healthy and live their best life. And I think that can also translate to being a musician. I think I play music for my own health and my own happiness. And I want to give that to my patients, but I want to, as a musician, give that to myself. And music makes me happy. And playing live has always made me feel alive and feel good and confident about what I do. Not every single show. We all have those shows that break us down, but you know what I mean? Like in general, just being able to express myself when I'm not always good with words and not always good at talking. And it's taken a lot of my life to get better at expressing myself in words. Music has always been a way that I can express myself and get that stuff out in a way that is good for me.
Beautiful. Sam, thank you so much. This has been a blast. It's been great to have you. I'm glad we finally got to do it. We talked about it.
I know. Sorry it took so long. Sorry I moved during a pandemic and it took so long. But
it's all worth the wait. Yeah, thanks very much. Take care. Be safe.
Bye.
Oh, there she goes. Sam Paulsen, Mean Queen, Reverse the Shark Man or Astro-Man. Super awesome. All right. So that was a little We versus the Shark. And some young up-and-comers called Man or Astro-Man. And I play some Mean Queen, but I don't think it's okay for me to play it yet. But there's going to be a Mean Queen release, as you somewhat heard news breaking on this very show earlier. So be on the lookout for that as well. I'd like to thank Sam Paulsen, Vonanova, Sam Shark for being a Protonic Reversal. Please go listen to all those bands. We versus the Shark. We versus the Shark Bandcamp.com. Man or Astro-Man. All over the internet. Pretty easy to find. And there's a Mean Queen band page as well. And I think Mean Queen is the band we talked about the least, but I really like that band a lot too. So all that's highly recommended. meanqueen.bandcamp.com. The name of the show is Conan Neutron's Protonic Reversal. Thank you very much for listening to it.
Mr. and Mrs. America, all ships at sea.
This show airs on Radio Nope on the internet.
Anyone within the sound of my voice.
Thursdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 6 Mountain, 5 Pacific. Say yes to Nope. Archives, protonicreversal.com. Always.
50,000 watts of...
Find it wherever you get your podcasts. Patreon.com/protonicreversal. $1 a month to get you the shows earlier if you want to get the shows earlier.
This microphone turns sound into electricity.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Can you hear me now?
Stay safe out there.
Out on Route 128.
And take it
dark and
easy.
lonely. I got my radio on. Can you hear me now? 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 See the radio. And that snare drum and that drum roll means we've got a winner. If you're the fifth caller, or any caller at all, welcome to my top 10. I'd like to thank our sponsor. But we haven't got a sponsor. Not if you were the last man on earth. She was prepared to prove it. This one goes out to a special girl. But there is no special girl. It's the end of radio. The last announcer plays the last record. The last what? Leaves the transmitter. Circles the globe in search of a listener. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? really broadcasting if there's no one there to receive? It's the end of radio. As we come to the close of our broadcast day, my radio on. Can you hear me now? This is a test! If this had been a real emergency,